Hello, Fernando. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon there.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Fernando, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Fernando, for investing in yourself. They say you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You say some couple of months back, Fernando, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it. And the leaves, they were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Fernando, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately, Fernando, I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Fernando. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so excited. Here is my point: the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Fernando that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your insights, your work, the impact your work is having, Fernando, and how you are offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful. So I've got to say, thank you for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it, and I love the analogy of finding fruit and how exciting that is.
All right. Thank you, my man. So let's get right into it. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for a few reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Fernando, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very crucial to me and even to the audience. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Fernando on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of informations flying out there. So these folks just pay for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Fernando, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. Want to know how Fernando got here? And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Fernando, over to you.
Okay, so let me talk. I think a lot of your listeners are also spiritual people. Is that correct? Very spiritual.
All right.
So I used to do mentoring through a church-based organization ever since high school. I was mentored and then I got very involved, but you still had to do your education, your day job. So these activities were always on the side. But excuse me, was helping people for over 20 years, high school kids, but then college students, and then eventually married men. But I was starting to be bothered, and I was working. My pursuits were creative. I After college, I became a copywriter for an ad agency. Well, I had to do some sales first, but eventually had a good enough portfolio to get a job in writing. And then I was trying to write scripts, and then eventually went to film school, and then couldn't sell anything after film school, so became an assistant, like A Devil Wears Prada. If you've heard of that movie, I was an assistant to a Hollywood producer, small, like TV movies, not the features you see in theaters, but still, it was intense. And these things were in parallel, where I was struggling with my career. I had these creative desires and aspirations, but I wasn't really getting to where I wanted to be. And meanwhile, in my mentoring, I kept hearing, especially as I got to the older men, I was starting to hear things like, well, my wife is bipolar, or my kids are doing this, or this is going on. And I could only give spiritual advice at the time, and from a Christian perspective. And so I became curious. And then I was starting to wonder if I should be a therapist, if I should go and learn more about psychology, go and learn the science of that side, and respect the limits of what's going to be a spiritual problem and what's more psychology and mental health. And it merged when, in the company I was working for, I learned about a guy that did marriage counseling, and I wanted to create a show around him. And we flew him out, and we had him work with some couples, and we filmed it all. And I just was blown away. I loved it. I was like, this man is affecting these lives in a profound way. And I'm not getting anywhere trying to do it in a dark theater. Like, I wanted the big results. I wanted the big audience that I was never going to meet. And I changed. I said, wait, this is so much better. I want to work one on one. I want to meet with people and learn their names and their story and be there for them and forget about mass media. Um, so I was attracted. I started wondering about that. And then 2008 came around, and um, the economy just went under. And the company I was working for at that time, I had switched to a different one. They went under. So that was the time for a career change. And I moved. I left LA. I moved to DC. I ended up getting into a graduate program, and then moved over to a PhD program, and just learning the differences. And right away, I was just shocked by what I was learning. Was exciting because I like the two. You know, there is your spiritual life, but come on, there's some things like you need nutrition, you need exercise. There are
All
things that are not gonna. The Bible may not be the best resource for those other aspects of life, or to understand why is my mind doing that, or why do I have these memories, or what's slowing me down. And I started learning about trauma, and then they put me on my first practicum, and it was at a crisis center. In my training as a
right.
psychologist, I was put at a crisis center in a rural area, and all these people were being brought in that were either had tried to commit suicide or were close to trying, or they were having delusions and voices, a grandmother in the woods wandering, or a lot of addiction. Those were the three big ones. And so they were brought against their will, and they were held for a minimum of 3 days, but sometimes 3 weeks. And I found that the facility was not addressing their trauma. It just wanted to inject them and give them medications and shut them up and send them home. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I came from a world, because they said 3 days may not be enough, or 3 weeks is not enough. And I had just come from a world where advertising, you get 30 seconds or one image. You have one image to try to change behavior. So I was excited by the challenge. Like, no, this is ridiculous. 3 days with someone? And I started trying to figure out, okay, which interventions that I'm already learning can be applied safely, even if you have no continuity, even if you never see this person again, what was safe to do with them. And there's so much. There's so many things. And my emphasis also became just training the person to understand what's happening so that they can keep going without me. So, for instance, a very common one with anxiety is if you give in to the anxiety, let's say someone that washes their hands a million times a day and their skin is breaking. Every time you go wash your hands, you feel relief, but it's only for 10 seconds. 10 seconds later, you've already touched something and you're worried again. If you give in and go wash again, you're trapping yourself in that cycle. I like to talk about how we have two brains. You have your upper brain, the human, and the lower brain, the animal. So the animal level brain shares cats and dogs and every animal. We got to know what's in common with them. We're sensing, we're observing, we're doing things like that. But the animal doesn't want to go near fire. The animal doesn't want to go near. So most people have trauma, have memories that they don't want to go near. And they're living on the run. And that's the equivalent of, okay, you're washing your hands, but you're not solving the problem. You're avoiding it. And the real change is going to be when you learn to sit with it and write about it and talk about it and get it out. I call it cleaning the attic or the basement or some storage room that you have full of clutter and you're afraid to go in there because it's overwhelming and there are spiders and there are things you don't want to encounter. But when you go in there bravely and sweep it out and clean it out and just get to every corner, you are teaching your lower brain. So I do this. This is like your spinal cord, and then it ends in a lower brain, and then you have a boxing glove, those big red gloves, that's your human brain. So we have to retrain this one to just sit with the trauma, to just sit and breathe and get to the other side, where it doesn't mean you like it, it doesn't mean you enjoy it, but you can tolerate it. You're just gonna sit. And to get used to something, let's say I have a fear of mugs, I have to put the mug there. Sorry, you can't see it. I have to put the mug and then just sit and wait for all the reactions to happen. I might cry, I might all sorts of things, I might have to blow my nose 20 times, but just ride it out. You will get to the other side. Why? Because the little animal is looking for danger. But if it's looking, and 20 minutes go by and nothing's happened, that animal sits and that animal goes to sleep. It gets over because you gave it a chance. The reason we don't adjust is people don't give it the chance. They say, nope, can't go there. Now, I'm not talking about going to a genuinely dangerous area. I'm not saying go put your life in danger somewhere. I'm talking about memories. They cannot hurt you. It's a photo album. And we need to grab the album and sit and read and look and cry and just let the body do what it needs to do. There's some process that hasn't happened yet that's gotten blocked. And when you unblock it, your body and mind will do what they need to do to get to the other side. So sometimes people think, oh, their trauma is going to take 3 years. Like, no, I've helped people in 90 minutes through going through a very structured series of exercises. I call it the organizer, the trauma organizer, because in all my research, I realized, oh, this is what the successful therapies are doing. They're making you identify emotions, because we all feel bad when there's no name, when there's no word for something.
Right.
Tell me if I'm talking too much, or if you want to
No.
interrupt.
Yeah, my man. And I love the fact that you are going deep in that area of trauma, because a lot of people they've got series of memories that they don't even want to think about, they don't want to remember. So that's gonna lead to me asking, what is trauma CPR and why did you create it?
Okay, so that's like trying to have a catchy name, but also to try to teach people that, whoever thought of CPR, the one with the heart, you're familiar with CPR? So
Yeah, yeah.
if someone's there in the store and they're passed out and they said, it's a crime to keep expecting doctors to handle everything. We have to train lay people to fill the gaps. We have to have regular people who understand enough that they can start the intervention before this person ever gets to a professional. Some people are never going to see a professional. Why are the rest of us just standing there watching the shipwreck? Like, we have to get involved. We have to learn some of these concepts and understand what's going on and try to fill what they need and try to lead them to where they need to go. So it comes from my dissertation. When you're in grad school, you end up, you have to have a final big project. And mine was a test of these exercises that I had put together in a very organized, sequential order. And then I haven't done enough. I should have published a book. Research was not my strong suit. I was good at the ideas and realizing what's needed, but not reporting. And plus, I'm a threat to the people that edit the journals. I'm a threat because they don't want to know that. I once had a supervisor tell me through a colleague, like, doesn't he know that this is how we make our living? Like, she was implying, why would you want to cure it that fast if this is our bread and butter, if this is our job? And like, really? You think we're going to run out of patients? The whole world needs this. So trauma CPR is just another name for my organizer, where I take people first, we examine why haven't they looked at trauma? And we look at some common hesitations. Oh, if I start this, I'll start crying, I'll never stop, I won't be able to go to work, I won't be there for my kids, so I better just not get involved. And if you believe that,
Mm,
then in a sense it's true for you, but I'm going to suggest it's a myth and we need to test it. What I loved about
mm,
psychology was testing everything. It's not philosophy.
yeah.
It's a science that then says, I have an idea. Oh, but we got to test it. I could be completely wrong. So I had a dissertation where I
Mm,
tested my exercises against something else that was shown to work pretty well, and both did great. And people, now what's funny is the other thing was just having people write about a trauma 3 times for 20 minutes. And for a lot of people, that has a very positive result, because you're converting. My theory is it's because you're sitting with it, you're not running away, you end up crying, you end up doing this. Now it works better with people who open themselves to the emotions and the experience, and it works less well with people who pretend they're fine and say, oh no, everything is fine. I Even if they use
mm,
God, they say, oh, God led me and I learned so much. But if there's any kind of denial going on, you're slowing down your progress. It's much better
mm,
to just go all the way and say, this is the most horrible thing and I may never recover. It's better to let that voice first, and then you start saying, really, are you sure? And you
mm.
bring
I
some
tell you,
realism. Yeah.
I tell you, man, and that was well said, and I got that. So we have two more to go, Fernando. So what inspired you to write a comedy around an iconic spy figure at 84?
Okay, so I've always had the passion since I found a camera when I was like 12. I found a camera, a video camera from the 60s, and we got the rust out and we made it work, and I started making movies. And so that was an interest, but I was afraid of that industry, so I didn't do it right after college. Anyway, it's returned. So I've had a 15-year career in psychology, but then I said I want to try writing again. And I was a little shy. I was a little traumatized by so much failure, so many projects ending up in the trash, that I was afraid to start another one. Like, haven't you learned your lesson? Those kind of ideas. But I heard a podcast with a woman that was writing plays, and I reached out to her and she said, I'll read your stuff And that inspiration helped me so much. The fact that somebody was interested and was going to read, and I sent her something, and that got me going. And then I said, I really want to work on something easy, something quick. And I remembered something a friend had written that never went anywhere. I asked him if I could redo it. I rewrote it as a script first. And then I said, but even if it sells, Hollywood will change everything. And I had some important themes in there, because the James Bond movies, they never discuss that he's a womanizer and that he probably has children that he doesn't know about. And so in the book, he's an 84-year-old man, and he thinks he's going to be a spy and have the ladies forever. And he's quite wrong. And they put him in a nursing home, and he thinks he's still an important guy and that the criminals are still going to try to kill him. So society calls him paranoid. You're old, you're paranoid. But he's not wrong. So I do a lot to say old people are not, we got to respect them. He's not wrong. People do try to kill him, but they're not the usual nuclear weapon people. It's his own future. If you've ever seen a movie called The Princess Bride, there is a character that is after him, and it turns, I don't want to do the spoiler, but there's a lot of family involvement but light. I'm not trying to be too preachy, but there's some little messages of like, you have to age gracefully, accept every stage of your life, and make changes before you die. and with a lot of humor, because I've also tried stand-up comedy, and I'm not good at memorizing my jokes, so I forget. I get on stage and I get nervous. But in a book, they work. So many of them, I was like, oh, I can use all these notes I have. And they ended up perfectly into the book. So
Amazing. And thank you for sharing that, man. So we have one more to go. If readers take away one message from your work, what should it be?
I think the most important, do you mean from everything I'm doing, or from like that book, or
Yeah, from the book.
from 0070? Well, it used to be called
Right.
0070. It's Agent Bigglesby. I think it's just the sense of humor that people get very rigid. And this is the intersection with mental health, is that if you get very rigid, there's something maybe a little wrong. Like life is a contact sport. It's painful, but there are fun times, and we have to stay loose. I have a very strong faith, and especially the last 5 years, I've really learned to let go and trust God more, and trust where he's sending me, and trusting, like, I used to do something called forcing solutions, where like, I got to do this now. And now it's more like, let me sleep on that. Let me think about it. Let me wait till it's clear. In the Old Testament, when Moses is leading the people, there were days where the fog would come down and they weren't supposed to travel that day. You're supposed to wait till it lifts. And same thing in our lives. There's so many times we need to slow down a bit and wait till the fog lifts, and ask for light and guidance, and realize that we have a Father that wants to give us things and wants to enjoy things, and we just need to participate. If a father says, which hand is the candy in? And we say, oh, I don't want to play that game, then we lose.
Yeah, we lose. I got that. And I'm going to take that as a final thought, man. So for folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or be a part of your programs, or even purchase your book, how can that be possible?
So I don't know if on your website you're going to post some of the websites I sent, but my easiest email is just fernfactor@gmail.com. Fern, like the first 4 letters of my name, fernfactor@gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
Is the easiest.
Beautiful.
Email I check the most.
Awesome, man. So that's going to be the end of the show, Fernando. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing these things.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a pleasure.